You know, it's strange how we often take our bodies for granted, don't we? We push them, we ignore the signs, and we think we're invincible. But then, out of nowhere, something shifts. I remember when I first started feeling that heaviness in my stomach, like a weight I couldn't shake off. It was subtle at first, just a dull ache that I brushed aside, thinking it was nothing more than a bad meal or stress from work. But as days turned into weeks, that heaviness morphed into something more sinister. It was like my body was trying to tell me something, and I was too stubborn to listen. Then came the fatigue. Oh, the fatigue. It wasn't just the kind you feel after a long day. It was a bone-deep exhaustion that seeped into every part of my being. I'd wake up in the morning, and it felt like I hadn't slept at all. I'd drag myself through the day, relying on caffeine and sheer willpower to keep going. Friends would ask if I was okay, and I'd laugh it off, saying I was just busy. But deep down, I knew something was off. I could feel my body screaming for help, but I was too caught up in my routine to acknowledge it. And then there were the changes in my skin. I remember standing in front of the mirror one morning, and I noticed a yellowish tint to my skin. It was subtle, but it was there. I thought maybe it was just a trick of the light, or perhaps I needed a vacation. But as the days went by, that yellow hue became more pronounced. I started to look at my reflection with a mix of confusion and fear. I'd read about jaundice, and I couldn't shake the thought that maybe, just maybe, I was experiencing it. It's funny how we can convince ourselves that we're fine, even when the evidence is staring us right in the face. Then there was the itching. Oh, the relentless itching. It felt like my skin was on fire, and no matter how much I scratched, the sensation wouldn't go away. It was maddening. I'd find myself in the middle of a meeting, trying to focus, and all I could think about was the itch that wouldn't quit. I'd excuse myself to the restroom, hoping to find some relief, but it was like a cruel joke. The more I scratched, the worse it got. I started to wonder if I was losing my mind. It was as if my body was rebelling against me, and I was powerless to stop it. And then came the swelling. My legs, my abdomen, everything started to swell. I'd look down and see my ankles disappearing, replaced by puffy, swollen skin. It was alarming. I'd try to hide it under long pants, but there was no escaping the reality of it. I felt like a balloon, inflated and ready to pop. I couldn't wear my favorite shoes anymore. They felt like a vice around my feet. I started to feel self-conscious, avoiding social gatherings because I didn't want anyone to notice. I was trapped in my own body, and it was suffocating. Eventually, I couldn't ignore it any longer. I made an appointment with my doctor, heart racing as I sat in the waiting room. I was terrified of what they might say. I had seen the signs, and I knew deep down that I had to face the truth. The symptoms had piled up, and I was finally ready to confront the reality of my situation. It was time to stop pretending everything was fine and start taking my health seriously. Because sometimes the body speaks louder than words, and it's up to us to listen.